Hey, good morning. Greetings, everyone. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here. Welcome to the Catalyst Weekend Astrology Report. We're going to talk about more than just the weekend, I feel like. This is the end, and the end of the lunar cycle that we're currently in, right? We're going to be coming into our last quarter of this new moon, our first new moon of the spring here in the northern hemisphere. It was the first new moon of autumn in the southern hemisphere, and we're also coming into a week that is representing the end of, or the beginning of the ending of the last eclipse cycle. So there are a lot of cycles kind of coming back around. And in the title of this report that I put up today, I did say, I think I said a closing of a cycle. I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but or a completion of a cycle, but it's really just closing or returning to a point of where we started, but in a different place, much like a spiral functions. And you can just look at our galaxy to get an idea of what a spiral really represents. So welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for stopping by, whether you're on the live stream or on the replay. Hello to the Starseed Fellowship and those monthly subscribers through Subscribestar. We had a really good conversation this week. The replay is posted for those who are subscribers. And if you're interested in that information, if the idea of a Starseed Fellowship interests you, or at least piques your interest in some way, you can link to a video in the description box called Intro to the Starseed Ministry, and that will give you a brief introduction into what this concept really means for me putting it out there and what it's meant to all of us that have been contributing so far. So we're going to get into our astrology for today. It's Earth Day. I'm going to just check in with the stream here and see how people are feeling. Was never crazy about Radiohead, but I like this. Yeah, it's they have these gems that are just kind of embedded in a number of their in their repertoire. You know, I really do like Radiohead, and it wasn't until OK Computer came out that I was just like, oh, what is this? So I definitely feel that, though. Love the spooky evolutionary music, and thank God it's Friday. TGIF. Hello, Megan. Barb says, for me, the music fixed this Friday mood, like about to take a big, sobering leap. Boy, oh boy, you totally said it, right? And this is the coming back around of a number of different cycles, right? We've talked about this harmonic now for a couple of days, and we had an opportunity to kind of be that harmonic, and now here we are. We are about to take a big leap. So some major astrological themes before we get into some of the space weather, right? The Schumann took a really big spike, the bigger than it's been in a while, last night into this morning. But the solar weather has been suspiciously and noticeably quiet. But I don't think that's going to last. I still anticipate that the sunspots that are turning into view of Earth have been very active. They've been flaring. The intensity is starting to go up now in their flaring, and the Schumann continues to spike exponentially more every time that there's a large amplification. It gets louder and gets louder and gets louder. So we'll see what's going to happen, but I do feel like that is part of what we're all experiencing within our own lives, our own soul journey right now. And a big sobering leap. So we're going to have our third quarter moon tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, roughly. Our moon in Aquarius, right? That's going to be square to our sun that is now in Taurus. It is Earth Day. Earth Day is every day, by the way. I mean, it's just kind of a slap in the face that we get one day to be like, hey, the very, nature of how we survive in this, universe, right, on this planet, our mother, our beloved Gaia, however you want to frame this relationship, the fact that it's only one day, and I know some of you have got to have seen it already. It's making the rounds because it was an article in NBC News about the founder of Earth Day as we know it, from the 70s and his dark side. So that's very interesting. This is something that we need to be considering. Just about everything now is the contrast to all of the things that are happening, all of our own decisions, the shadow that we ourselves cast as a result of being in material reality with light casting on it. So interesting themes around that just popping up in seemingly random places. But this is how it works, right? We're creating all of this for ourselves, where the manifestation potential is very, very high, as many of us already know. But so we have this third quarter moon in Aquarius. It's going to be happening on Saturday. Mercury is going to conjunct the north node of the moon. The moon's going to be in a T-square with her own nodes by the time the moon gets to where Saturn is, right? The moon's going to meet Saturn in Aquarius. So the moon in Aquarius, the big sobering leap that Barb had mentioned and characterized so well, whatever it means for us, is it's a good thing to have the moon in Aquarius at this moment, because the capacity to be in the flow of the feels but not identify them is really a lot easier to identify with, I think, with a moon in Aquarius. So if you in your natal chart have a moon in Aquarius, your progressed moon is moved into Aquarius, anything like that, or you're just a strong Aquarius person, having the moon come into your sign during a time where there may be just kind of this mental and cognitive alignment with this, with the dragon, so to speak, right? Our consciousness and our conscious mind becoming aligned with the direction and the trajectory of our soul's journey right now with the North Node. I think it's going to be very powerful. It's going to be very strong and almost swift. I think it's going to be very swift. It's like being pulled into a coronal hole stream. This is what it feels like to me for the nodes of the moon. You can think about it as a dragon, but sometimes lately it's feeling like a literal wormhole, like a tunnel, like a time tunnel that we experience as a result of our soul being in alignment with where it is going for its evolution, right? And the Starseed story and the mission is, in my opinion, as an astrologer and as a Starseed, is that evolutionary astrology, you kind of can't take it out of the mix when you're doing starseed astrology and starseed work in particular, or just karmic work, whatever that means to you. Evolutionary astrology is a big part of this, which is Pluto and the nodes of the moon, in terms of the direction, the power that's been generated, where we're going, all of these things. So I talk a lot about this in my one-on-one readings, but following the nodes right now, still leading us back to the Pleiades. This is a cycle that has been very, the word is fecundating, right? Nourishing, gives us, it's nourishing, it's fertilizing. It's really drawn our attention and our energy towards the lessons around inherent value, inherent worth, fertility of the land. And here's the reality, my friends. You can have all the potency and desire and Mars masculine energy you want all day long. It doesn't mean anything in terms of transmutation and creative creation and metamorphosis without the soil being fertile. If the soil doesn't have the means to support the process of growth, then it doesn't matter how much life force potential is encapsulated in that seed, which is us, right? It's our own ego, our subjective experience, our sense of self that we have as a spiritual being coming into material form. If we can have all of that optimism, cosmic optimism, and even lost opportunities regained, it has, the soil has to be fertile. It has to be wet, it has to have, it has to have the nutrients in there for the plant to grow. There has to be worms that are embedded in there, depending on, what kind of soil, what part of the world you're in. So these are just ways to wrap your mind around it. But this is the area: Sun in Taurus, Mercury in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, North Node in Taurus, right? So Scorpio people are really, they ain't getting much help in terms of where they've been and who they've been, right? Especially with the South Node in Scorpio. So if you have strong Scorpio in your chart, it hasn't been easy, but it has been pulling you out of the old paradigm and old processes that we've been engaged in before at a soul level of like, oh, we can create and distribute, harness, create and distribute this energy, this power. And that comes through a lot of different ways in order to create something, to build worlds, to build civilizations, to build something that holds, right? This is we're going back to a new cycle. And so that means aligning with the inherent value of what's around us and being able to utilize it. And and as much as Aquarius and Taurus are in a natural square to each other, they are fundamentally linked in that it is the natural world that the Aquarian archetype is really resonating with as a whole. So these things are inseparable, right? You can't take them apart from each other. So when we go into this, going into Aquarius and going through Aquarius, meaning that by the time we get to Monday, into Pisces, and then it's going to meet Mars, and it's going to meet Venus, it's going to meet Jupiter and Neptune, and this has just been so nebulous, so many layers of experience. How many of you, it just continues, right? It just continues of tapping into alternative timelines that you're part of, tapping into multidimensional aspects of who you are and what that journey is involving for your soul, tapping into past life and karmic larger soul groupings and the karma involved with that. It's not very easy to bring all of these threads together, but it's also important to acknowledge them, because it's not just about what's happening right now anymore. And it hasn't been for a while, but this has become pretty clear to me in my own work with myself, and the messages coming through various means, for me at least, is this overlap and this convergence that we've been talking about, where the bifurcation has already happened, and it's the convergence that is actually the utilization of this energy, the convergence, right? It's not necessarily a split. I think that has been kind of the misnomer, if you will, or a way of keeping us split, that like, oh, it's just, we're going to separate in these two realms. It's kind of like, no, it's coming together, because it's not just about us. It's about this whole solar system. It's about our galaxy, right? And you could probably say it's even about this entire like time matrix and universe, if you want to go to that level. So there is a convergence. It's already happened, and we are just now moving into that. And that's part of that, is experiencing everything else coming to a point that has to do with, like I said, multiple dimensional experiences, past life. The Atlantean story continues to be stacked onto right now, and has been since the eclipse of 2017. There's no doubt about that, for me at least, considering the Atlantean galactic degrees that are involved in that eclipse. And so we've been working through this story, and the Pleiadian nature, for all of its own karmic residue that's involved with Atlantis, Lemuria, and that whole scene, is very much about the balanced and open and strong heart chakra, which is connecting to the heart of this planet. And the Schumann resonance, man, what a great segue. The Schumann resonance is very much the field that is emitted from the planet's heartbeat, however that makes sense to you. So actually, let's move into that, because I want to just share that really quick. Let me turn on my mouse, and I want to see how things are going. Tensions are super high today. Major emotional turmoil in my nuclear family. Oh boy, Megan, I totally feel you. There is like turmoil upon turmoil upon turmoil. That is like, one thing I will recommend that seems to be coming through very strongly for me and people that I'm reading for right now, and it's really helped me too in terms of this, is that yes, there is turmoil, and we have to address what's happening in real time for us. But if it seems a little strange, or it seems like it doesn't fit, remember that these are also opportunities for this turmoil has expressed itself multiple times in your immediate family as a soul grouping. And the turmoil is coming back up again, right? To be faced, to be cleared away, to now not make the same decisions that would have kept us on that fascistic timeline, but bringing it to where we are now, which is the awakening timeline, right? It's already in place. It's just pulling everything in. So when there's a lot of upheaval and turmoil, and it's all over the place, right? People, the emotions are very powerful right now. And like I said, lots of crying, lots of rage, and it just keeps coming in waves. Whatever you need to do to take care of yourself is really important. So, Megan, let me know if there's anything that I can do, or give, insight into, anything else to maybe ease this transition or this process for you. But it's really Virgos, not to out you, but I just know elsewhere, Virgo people close to me are having very similar, very strong inner nuclear family turmoil as well. And Virgos are just getting hit with it hard. Just wait till the moon comes into Pisces in the 7th house. I think it'll probably soften quite a bit, or at least find some, maybe not resolution, but the boundaries, I think, will find some fluidity here, and some compassion will kick in. It's not very easy with the Aquarius. This is a great astrology lesson, actually, in how to use your chart, because Aquarius for the Virgo person is the 6th house. So with the moon moving through the 6th house, you know that that's a challenge to you personally, to your personal growth and evolution. And then the moon will come into Pisces, into the 7th house, and then the sensitivity to your relationships, and then the nature of them becomes that much more powerful. So hang in there, right? The weekend is going to be kind of a personal challenge moment, and your sensitivity to that. So let's look at the Schumann, because I feel like that this is really helping us right now, actually. Taurus season is a relief for me. At least today is. Oh, you said it. I mean, it's still my 3rd house, but my God. The Andromeda nature was really just especially the galaxy, Andromeda galaxy nature was just like reaching this fever pitch for me. It was just like, if I can't get out of like my own head, I think I might just explode. So take care of yourself. One of the things I did, I got a massage yesterday. I haven't gotten a massage in a while, right? Well, it's been a number of months. So whatever, take a soak, have a sweat. Just know that you're purging so much at every level right now with where Neptune is, that at a soul level. So whatever you can do to help that process along is really going to be helpful. Like I said, have a sweat, have a soak, go out into nature, and, leave your devices off and behind. Whatever it is you need to do to get back in touch with the natural resonance, because that will allow you to, calibrate yourself, and then you can see and feel a much bigger picture. And remember the full moon, right? This is the challenge to this over the weekend, that moon in Aquarius. What are we going to do with this energy? What is our spiritual responsibility? It's one thing to be like, oh, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And you know this, if you've gotten the forecast for your sign, that this is this moment here is that nagging feeling. It may not be nearly as nagging. I think it's such, with Aquarius being so connected to where Uranus is, and the fact that it has really moved into a new position. Mercury is going to square, it's already squared Uranus. Conjunct Uranus. That's what I meant to say. Mercury's already been conjunct Uranus, but we'll look at it. There's Uranian transits all weekend as well. So again, the character that's developed under adversity, the fact that Saturn is still in Aquarius, right? Really like establishing a firm root hold on where we've been before on this Atlantean system, just for example, and what we've learned from it. It is stabilizing us. As long as we're learning something and not getting pulled back into the passions, so to speak. So, and the solar energy, that was the thing about Atlantis that went wrong, right? Is that access to so much power through spiritual evolution, through spiritual technology, through actual technology, allowed the release of so much of this potent energy that the consciousness wasn't really prepared to handle it. And there was definitely some intrusion, right? There's definitely some intrusion by some shit starters that were like, let's take control of this by, kind of dampening the ability to use this technology. So anyway, let's look at the Schumann, shall we? And start looking at what's going on in this version of reality. So I'm going to minimize this here. So we see that the Schumann definitely got very loud last night, and especially very early this morning, 5 a.m. Eastern, right? So moving across from the West Coast, you're looking at, 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m. To 5 a.m. Eastern. You see that it hit 60, and this really bright, bold, white, chunks here really shows how loud it got in those moments. And, the standard, right? We scroll down and we see that it's been it's been fairly quiet in terms of this loud jump, and even the quality has been consistent. There have been strange blips here and there, but then the quality starts to align with this large amplification, and the standard drop in frequency. It's pretty consistent, but if you see here, it went right back up. So it's bouncing back almost immediately, which is what we want to see, I think, right? The ideal situation is to get to a high vibe with a strong tone that is really strong, because a high vibe with a that is really quiet and not a strong tone suggests that, we will we'll still align with that frequency, but it's not strong, right? We just kind of get pulled into something else. And so if that's what you want, I mean, I guess that's a version of ascension, I suppose, but the Starseed mission isn't about that, right? We didn't come here to just leave at the finale. We came here to be part of anchoring the experience for it. So ideally, we want to hold with a strong tone and a higher frequency. So that the Schumann, what's interesting to me is that, yes, it got really loud, but again, I think we're going to see, as we look at some of the flares, right, we're going to see that the sunspot group is turning ever towards Earth, but you can see even the geomagnetic activity in the magnetosphere has been stable now for days. It's been impacted, but it's been stable. It hasn't necessarily created any storms. Now, the flaring that is causing X-ray blackouts, right? These are M-class and X-class flares. They're not facing us yet. There's no ejection, so there's no CME on the way, but it's still having an impact on shortwave radio and those things. So we have been getting auroras, and these sunspots are, in fact, flaring, as we can see. Even just this morning, there's an M3 that just flared, but no CMEs, right? This is beautiful as well. This is also in Poland. You can see the sunspots visible, and you can see them right here too. They are starting to turn inwards, facing us, and they have been very active, but nothing yet in terms of CMEs. But I think with the way that the Schumann has been growing and getting louder and louder, and very much correlated roughly to when these flares are released from the sun, I would say to expect that sobering leap that's going to come probably from a big blast. I don't think it's anything to be scared of. I mean, it's hard to say, right? It's hard to say what could be happening at that moment that would allow for a really large X flare to have an impact on our everyday lives. But I think it'll still have an impact on the way things kind of are brought to the surface, right? And the fact that these large solar flares are part of our DNA upgrading, how the information coming is is interacting with us as well. We are electrical and magnetic. The sun is electrical and magnetic. The planet is electrical and magnetic. The solar system. Anyway, you can see the KP index, quiet. No coronal holes, right? There was a big earthquake yesterday because we had been in that coronal hole stream for a hot minute without much else. And so, again, there's like this, I don't know how exactly it works electrically, but there is a sense of like having an impact on the seismic activity. And then there was that big 6.7 magnitude right off of Nicaragua. There was also a pretty big earthquake in the northern part of Greenland, which is apparently very interesting and not often. So that's our space weather for today. We're going to get right into the chart here so that we can get an idea of what to expect for this weekend. So let's see here. All right, my friends. Ultimately, I feel personally, and like, let us know how you're feeling, like turmoil for sure. A sense of, some people do have a sense of impending doom, and there's just nothing you can do about that, right? There's just nothing you can do about it. You see what's happening in terms of certain, you're not gonna see on the mainstream, but we know, right? And it did seep into the mainstream on Tucker Carlson about the food plants, right? And all of the explosions and destruction. And we've known about this for a while. And in some ways, this is forcing people to break their need for that type of food chain. So again, you can look at this situation and be afraid of it, or you can look at these situations, identify what is happening, and also see where the potential transmutation and metamorphosis is, right? Oh, look, it's going to force people into growing their own food and establishing local communities, right? And I'm not suggesting that we continue to reinforce destruction in order to get here. That doesn't have to be the case, but it is something that we can either focus on and be afraid of and just, let the loosh flow, or it can be like, you know what? This is just making, this is just catalyzing, right? Just catalyzing it even more. And the more we do that, I feel like the more that we draw into this convergence point that we are getting to. So I can't say for sure, right? We have to be with the collective bandwidth is the collective bandwidth. And we change it based on everybody's individual voice changing in its amplitude, its tone, and its pitch, right? To come into harmony with each other. So we have to be with what it is. But everybody's voice counts. And so there's always a reason. And there's always I wouldn't even say a reason. Definitely there's always a reason, but there's always motivation, right? In terms of we are in truly control. And we could have, it's been this way before, and it's important to remember, to have that soul memory or that DNA memory, whatever it is, ancestral memory, starseed memory of doing this before and what hasn't worked. And that hurts, right? It's hurting a lot of people. There's a lot of very deep patterns that have to come back up through our current situation in order to be felt again. And we make different choices now if we choose, right? That's the thing. So it's going to be an interesting weekend. That nagging feeling of the moon in Aquarius, it's going to be like, yeah, we can all identify with the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow here, but what are we going to do with that resource? How are we going to apply it or utilize our own spiritual energy to heal and to help others and to invest it back into our community? I think that we need to really start addressing this, right? Because that full moon, whatever was happening in your life, it showed you where you were able to emotionally see the biggest picture, to transcend the situation. And it's not transcendent for your own personal comfort. It's transcendent so that you identify, oh, this is how to be in balance and harmony with the universe. This is the Arcturian, this is the Arcturian tutorial here that we all tapped into in some way, shape, or form through our own experiences, our feelings, our intuition. So what are we going to do with it now, right? That full moon was an air sign. This moon is now an air sign in Aquarius. And it's like, okay, so are you just going to sit in meditation in your cave forever? Or this is the crisis in consciousness that a third quarter moon always represents. So in the meantime, as we get into this, we're going to go through today, Earth Day, right? Every day is Earth Day. And realize that, like I said, Mercury's here. It's going to meet the North Node. The Sun is, in Taurus. I've been certainly enjoying, my relationship back to the planet and a sense of putting my 2 feet on the ground, and giving a place, it's like giving yourself, allowing your identity and your voice to be a grounding rod, or to experience that grounding rod, my Lord, right? So that when you get struck by lightning, that it has somewhere to go, right? That's why, when you're in a rainstorm or a thunderstorm or there's lightning and you're in your car, they tell you to stay in your car, right? Because rubber is an insulator. Your rubber tires it won't allow for the charge to move through the vehicle and through your body, right? It's not, but we're going to conduct it. So putting your feet on the ground, I think, is at least going to help to a certain extent. So remember that trine with the moon in trine to Uranus at the time that it was in conjunction with Lyra. This was last night into this morning. So this was a really important moment of really grasping what this is all about, what we are here for, and grasping internally in our own feelings, right? And I think that also gives a sense of perspective as well. with why we are here, because we're about to start, we're in this closing out and completion and a new, coming into a new arm of the spiral right now with eclipse season, about to turn over at the end of this week. So this week, as we move through the balsamic moon, right, as the moon moves through Aquarius, moves through Pisces, moves back through Aries and comes into Taurus, we're really finishing up emotionally a lot of things right now. So this conjunction with Lyra in a trine to Uranus that is also in, I believe, still very much in alignment with Andromeda, the constellation, is about to move out of that territory as well. So these are important starseed connections. And again, these are memories that are triggered. This is a sense of innate frequency that we tap into that's more than just our conscious mind. It's important to remember that too, and to just be easy, let it come through you, right? And realize that we've done this all before, right? And that we're here to make different choices now so that we don't have to feel, live with, consistent reincarnational cycles just to move past this. So now let's look at the moon. So it's moving towards this, well, it's already done it. So let's put it that way. This sextile, so there's all the sextiles with the Pisces energy. It did have a sextile with Mars already, so let me make sure you can see this. But it's coming into a sextile with Venus in Pisces. And then after that, we'll, like I said, sextile to Jupiter, sextile to Neptune. It's going to meet Pluto as well. So we'll get to that. But today, there is a sense here that we can really, in our embodiment, in our emotions, right, is being transferred in terms of a spiritual knowledge, or not even knowledge, like the master instructing the disciple. So this is the position of Venus right now in Pisces. So Venus in Pisces is allowing for the boundaries to be a little more fluid, right? That we can easily move in and out of the ocean on our little desert island. And specifically in Pisces, this is the direct transmission of the spiritual experience, the unity consciousness that will often come directly from the guru, right? So we also know that, since we're finishing out this age of Pisces right now, it's really the experience of the last 2,000 years that I would say is the guru, right? It's the experience of it, what's transpired, what we've gone through at a karmic level. Pisces is the realm of unity consciousness, forgiveness, compassion. I mean, it's the Christ is the avatar of the Piscean age. So this and it's through our relationships, right? Venus, again, the sensitivity to what is valuable to us in the world, and what is harmonious, what allows us to achieve a sense of balance. So there's a sense of feeling this need to step up when we're not really ready, and the sense of accelerated growth, because sometimes the 5-year-old has to step up and do something that they are not really how do I say this, developmentally ready to do, but sometimes the 5-year-old has to carry the groceries in from the car, or, if you are the older of siblings and you have a lot of younger siblings, for instance, you may have found that, and you had working parents, right, or a latchkey kid, you may have found that you were taking a caretaker role for your siblings, right? Before you really were, in a position to do so. It's accelerated growth because it's necessary for the health and wellness and security of the entire establishment, whatever that means for you. But this is the moon in Capricorn. So we're feeling this sense of like, okay, we got to start stepping up. And this is something that we can harmonize with and transmute within ourselves and our sensitivity and our sense of value and worth, right, with Venus, in that in order to allow this transmission to happen seamlessly, right, whatever it is, that we don't lose it, that it's not disconnected somehow, that we may have to kind of step up and allow ourselves to grow emotionally or in our feelings, maybe a bit more than what we would want to. And that's part of the guru and the teacher together, the master instructing the disciple. There may be this moment here where we have to actually step up as part of the instruction, right? When I was in, I didn't intend to tell this story, but when I was, my first undergraduate pursuit was music. And when I went from high school into my first semesters of university, my studio professor was giving me work he was giving me pieces to practice that were way harder than what I was easily able to do, right? Like I was easily able to knock out a lot of, like sight reading and stuff. I didn't have to practice as much but I wasn't being challenged as much either until I went into that environment and I was intentionally being challenged. And so I was finding myself in situations where I had to really step up if I wanted to be able to maintain, my musical, I don't want to say integrity, but you know what I mean. And so I found myself practicing more, having to flub a lot more in a public setting, which was really uncomfortable for me. But part of that process was showing that I could do it, and that I needed to step up. So this is right. This sextile really encompasses that kind of energy, but in a really loving and a very receptive type of way, because we're talking about Venus, Pisces, and the moon in Capricorn, which is an earth sign. So it's not so much a masculine outward expansion so much as the experience of this by taking responsibility in some way and feeling the expansion within yourself as a result of it. So the moon comes into a trine with Mercury, actually. So this was happening this morning, right? This was kind of like what set the tone for the day. Then we have Mercury in Taurus that's going to be meeting, like I said, the North Node this weekend. And so the moon is going to come into a trine with Mercury this morning. That already happened as well. And let's see here. Yep. 22, it looks like 22 degrees of 22 degrees of Taurus and Capricorn. So this idea here that we have that there's a sense of we learn more from our failures. Again, see, this is an interesting segue here, but we learn more from our failures than we do from more from our failures a lot of times than we do from our successes. And in fact, when we can accept this quote unquote defeat, this is the mark of a true leader. This is a mark of a true character that has nobility, right? There is the mark of someone that understands that through accepting defeat gracefully, and this is not rolling over, right? This is realizing that, and this is a Lyran thing forever and ever, right? This is a strong Lyran connection with where Mercury is at this trine, which is that there is no failure, right? That there is only opportunity to get better. And in terms of Capricorn, it really is not just about us. It's individually. It is about our feeling of responsibility to whatever establishment we are invested in contributing to. And so things that didn't work before, right? Things that did not pan out, decisions that have been made that, led to our defeat, quote unquote. These are all things that the moon allows us to connect into in its position in Capricorn in a trine, right? That's a very stable connection to Mercury in Taurus, which is, let's see here. Let me find my notes, friends, because I don't want to misquote myself. 22 degrees of Taurus. Man, I don't even have it in front of me. Oh my gosh, I have 21 degrees and I have 22. There it is. White dove flying over troubled water. Yep, there it is. So there is some type of mental, some type of cognitive, some type of conscious awareness in the moment here as we feel that defeat, we accept that defeat, whatever it is. And like I said, this is something that has maybe happened on some other timeline, some other dimensional level, some sort of karmic past situation. This is something that allows us to stabilize that while we are open to some sort of symbol of guidance, right? The white dove flying over troubled waters. I actually wanted to play Bridge Over Troubled Water, but I was like, that's even more mellow than this pyramid song, and I just wasn't ready to go all the way into that. But there is a rhythm of our cosmos that is ordained by something sacred and divine that you can call God if you want. And it reveals its own heartbeat, right? And here's the heartbeat of the planet as well, that is an extension of that. And it's a living and significant sign. And so something in terms of our, like I said, conscious awareness, cognitive functioning, mental activity, information, and the way that we communicate and express ourselves with Mercury is allowing this connection. But it comes with an opening of a space of realizing, oh, I see. These decisions have led to defeat, us feeling a defeat, and to let yourself go. Accept it and realize that it's time to move forward. And in that moment, I feel like that there will be kind of like this, symbol or a spiritual inspiration that'll come through the mind and through our mental faculties, and in order to really assist us in this moment, because the feels are very, very powerful. It's not easy right now, and I keep needing to address that because I want people to understand that it's okay to have these really powerful types of experiences. Neptune in Pisces right now is just triggering like the soul purification at every level. Now the moon comes and reaches Rahu, or the North Node, right after this. Let me see here. There we go. Which is what? This is about the natural excellence, right? This is about the gems. This is about allowing for well, this is a trine. I'm sorry, not a conjunction. So while the North Node is in conjunction with this degree of Taurus, which again is about the precious gems, the certification of natural has taken time to become valuable, but also our embellishment of it, or our addition to it in some way. It's not just the social, certification of it, but it is also the process that has already unfolded that allowed those gems to be valuable in the first place, right? This is the North Node. So the moon comes into a trine right after meeting Mercury, and it's like we're gonna a reception of some sort within ourselves, right? We get some sort of award or some sort of recompense or something, right? You receive your 2 awards for bravery in combat. And again, this is very much finding stability with this Taurus energy, with the North Node, right? That we have, in fact, allowed for these natural cycles to unfold, because it is only our engagement of ourselves with the medium of growth, with the environment, with what is here already, that allows for our consciousness to even develop, right? If we weren't had any place to grow, then we wouldn't grow. And so again, we can receive our recompense. We can balance these things out within ourselves as this moon moves through Capricorn. And Aquarius people, especially if you're Aquarius rising, this is moving through your 12th house. So just know, I mean, it really is at that level of every karmic story coming to a close here, stacked one on top of the other. So after this is where the moon comes into a sextile with Neptune. It will come into a sextile with Jupiter right after. Jupiter is getting really close to coming into Aries. It's soon enough, it'll be there. And this is where I think, especially with Neptune, so nebulous. There is something, we have to find some measure of the establishment that we do want to rely upon, some sort of tradition, some sort of beautiful tapestry that has been woven as a result of our contribution. Something here that allows us to really express ourselves artistically and culturally, with these beautiful and very innate or ornate, that's the word I was looking for, intricate and ornate types of creations, right? Just like a tapestry, or just like a rug, like a beautiful rug that that we stand on, or that we lay on or sit on, or however you want, prayer mat even. As we go through this process, there's something that we can, find. So maybe this is really just a matter of like getting out the yoga mat, right? Getting out your prayer mat, knowing that it's in that space within yourself. Now, you can do this literally or not. It's about finding that space within yourself that is going to, transmute and allow ourselves to change and to go through our own metamorphosis through this really vast soul purging with Neptune and Pisces. So that, whatever that is for you, again, knowing where Capricorn is in your chart will probably point you in some direction in order to do this. But it's really still a feeling within ourselves with the moon. Now, the moon really ends Saturday or Friday. We haven't even gotten into Saturday yet, but that's okay, because these are all lead ups to this third quarter moon. I feel like it's important to address these things. Is going to be, the moon comes into, let me find it here. Yes, the moon's going to come into conjunction with Pluto. So there's kind of like the tip of it, right? Or the full experience, the full raw experience each of us are having with the power of Pluto and the power of transformation. And so what is this? This is a woman reading tea leaves. And Pluto is going to station retrograde pretty much right as we come into the very end of this cycle and begin the new moon in Taurus and the next eclipse cycle. The moon is going to, Pluto will station retrograde. So in this degree, so the fact that the moon is meeting here kind of like one last time with Pluto, get into it. The hidden signature that you, that is not so hidden anymore, is it, with Pluto, right? Pluto is just unearthing it, right? Digging it up, making the underlying signature of the energetics that hold it all together, that normally can only be read by the medium or the intuitive or the psychic, right? It's becoming something that we're all connecting to and all seeing in some way, shape, or form. With the moon crossing Pluto, this is where it hits everybody, right? Everybody's going to feel into this. Now, this is later tonight. So this is going to be, depending on where you are in the world, as you're settling down for the evening, going to bed, possibly, or just in those late hours, this is where it becomes really strong. So again, I'm curious to see how this unfolds as we go through this weekend. So when we get to, not a week ahead. We're not there yet. When we get into this third quarter moon, as you can see, the moon is in Aquarius, and it's going to actually square the sun at 3 to 4 degrees of Aquarius and 3 to 4 degrees of Pisces. So this is that nagging feeling, that crisis in consciousness, right? Where the sun is our identity and our sense of sustainment and where we express ourselves and, the person that we aspire to be and how we are our own unique voice is very much right now kind of invested in the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? What it is that we are working towards that unfolds when we link our spiritual nature and the material, right, coming together. It's a natural communion, and it involves something called transubstantiation. Well, that's interesting because the south node of the moon right now is in a degree that represents transubstantiation, not of matter, but transubstantiation of ourselves and of and matter. It can be that, but it's through first transubstantiating the base drives that are the power that is generated in our relationships, right? Bringing it to a level of potency that is the next harmonic. So this sun in Taurus here, when it squares the moon, is representing our alignment with and our resonance of our own voice and expression with this natural communion, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And we know that the rainbow never really ends. So there's really no pot of gold, but in physicality, but it's the idea that when we're able to find this space that is not really, it's not truly substantiated, but there is a transubstantiation. It's something that is not necessarily, well, it could be currency, but I think what we're finding here is that the sun in Taurus in this moment, especially where the moon is in Aquarius, this is about, really aligning ourselves with where we're going, and the almost the reward that we can expect or anticipate based on this natural communion. And so how that expresses itself is going to depend on where you find this in your chart. The crisis is this nagging feeling at the back of our mind that's just like, okay, but what are you going to use it for? What have you used it for? Have you used your spiritual energies to restore natural harmony that has been disturbed by past situations? Are you aligning with your spiritual duty to be able to tap these energies and use them to help other people for healing? This is going to be this third quarter crisis of consciousness, because it's great to be, and I'm not saying that we have to feel entirely like responsible for everyone else and what we're doing. We still need to take care of ourselves and nourish ourselves. It's just the square is going to really be this moment of disturbance, or at least challenge and conflict within ourselves of like, well, what are we conscious of, and what are we putting our energy towards, right? And it's in the discomfort of this square that we're going to get a better idea of this. So there's not a ton of transits on the 23rd, except for that big square, which is in the morning. And then there's another big one, which is that Mercury comes into a conjunction, like I said, with the South Node now, or the North Node, I'm sorry. So this I never fix. This is the mean or the average node, and Lilith, I don't read for those. I read for the true, because they oscillate, and I think that oscillation is important. So just know that it is 22 to 23 degrees that Mercury and the North Node find their conjunction, right? This is the natural excellence. So this is, like I talked about, that chute, or like the wormhole, right? Is like going into that stream that the nodes represent, because it's our soul that is truly pulling us in this direction. And so our conscious mind is going to come into that flow and just get pulled right along. And in some ways, it kind of allows us to be consciously aware of being, riding the dragon, and like putting our energy and thoughts towards that end, right? Towards that direction, I should say. And the direction is having, again, to do with the natural excellence, right? The certification of something that is more than, well, that is something that is over time become valuable in and of itself, right? There are culturally acquired skills that we all get, right? And for instance, and so the jewelry shop that's filled with all of these gems is the embellishment, and the North Node at this point on the same day is also a really strong reminder of the lengthy and demanding process that this truly represents, and not to get too caught up in like, well, what can I do? What am I supposed to be doing? How do I actually use this energy? We have to also let this energy naturally unfold for itself too. And this is where I think we can really get some direction in terms of, where our mental attention is going with Mercury and the North Node. So Saturday it doesn't have a lot of excuse me, it doesn't have a lot of transits. It's just those two, really. So Friday, which is today, has got a lot of things going on. And then we look at Sunday, and the moon is now going to be moving through the last half of Aquarius. So this is going to be very interesting because we're going to see that Mercury has a sextile, or the moon has a sextile with Chiron in Aries. It's going to meet Saturn, and it's going to square Uranus, which is very interesting because this is the ruling planet of Aquarius. And so then the moon is exalted in Taurus. It's not at home in Taurus, but it's pretty darn close. And so there's kind of a mutual reception here. The moon's going to T-square her own nodes as well, and then is going to meet Mercury's going to meet Neptune in a sextile. The moon's going to meet Saturn. It's going to square Mercury. There's a lot of things going on in this late Aquarian age. And just so you know, and to reiterate, late Aquarius is opposite Leo, which is the Atlantean degrees. And so the late Aquarius is Orion. It's square to the Pleiades, right? There is a sense of either the AI, or there's a sense of real human technological spiritual advancement that Aquarius can represent. So let's go through it. First, we had we will have the moon on Sunday come into a sextile with Chiron. And you know, if you really want to be able to I don't want to say bypass, but if you really want to be able to like kind of penetrate your own natural process, right? Like just cut through the bullshit and get to where you're going, right? Is the train going through the tunnel, right? Well, how'd the tunnel get there in the first place? Well, we had to build the tunnel, right? We had to excavate and build the tunnel and provide the infrastructure. And now the train going through it is the experience of especially with the moon, our feelings kind of, you know, again, going through this wormhole. It feels like going through this wormhole. And the sextile to Chiron with the serpent coiling, again, this is going to really challenge us of whether or not we are going to take responsibility for our own potency and what that means, or if we are going to let the guilt and the shame about it from before pull us back into the old story. And then we find ourselves just being nothing more than a cog in someone else's wheel, and that's still happening. So again, lots of opportunities to address this. So let's see here. Sextile Chiron, and I would say right after that is when the moon comes into a square, as you can see here, with Uranus. And okay. This square is going to be a really important moment that we can be able to feel into, how do I put this? The natural contrast to ourselves, right? As Uranus represents the shock and awe and the really swift transformation, character being revealed under adversity, right? That we are still in this position here with Uranus. This square to the moon is really going to challenge our ability to, find the love, right? Find a sense of beauty, find a sense of, I don't want to say reward. I hate to use that term, but it's coming up a lot in the astrology. It's a sense of you can see, you can just be happy in the moment, that everything that's happening, you can align yourself with its contrast and be able to find your peace of mind. That's really what it feels like. By the time Sunday morning, right? We're looking late Saturday night, Sunday morning. This is an opportunity. It's going to be very uncomfortable, but this is also the chance that we're like, yes, you see and feel the big picture. Everybody loves a lover, right? And if you can find that place within yourself where you are the lover, so to speak, then you can, because Aquarius doesn't have to be all robotic and shut down, not at all. I mean, especially just know your opposition is Leo. It's the most passionate sign in the zodiac. So when you can be a lover and be able to love yourself and others simultaneously, I think that that's going to be a really strong asset to a square that it's going to challenge it, but that's okay. That's okay. Accept the challenge, right? Accept the challenge. Because Uranus might be upsetting the apple cart in your very material everyday life, but the moon in Aquarius is like, hey, this is the realm of Uranus, right? This is the Aquarian realm. It is the realm of our connection to each other, transcending all of this stuff. And that cannot be broken unless we choose to break it. So, lots of tests. There's definitely going to be some tests here. And again, what are we going to do with that energy? That's that third quarter moon is squaring the sun. So Mercury is going to square Saturn. Ooh, that's exciting, isn't it? Mercury's going to square Saturn pretty much at the same time this is happening. So Saturday night into early Sunday morning, Mercury in Taurus squaring Saturn. Oh boy, talk about another like challenge here. So 24 degrees of Taurus is a very triggering image, right? This is full command and authority over yourself. The imagery is of an Indian warrior riding with a belt full of scalps, okay? So it's pretty aggressive and it's pretty violent, and it's a sense of being completely in charge and control of yourself. And this, in fact, is the beginning of the Pleiades star cluster in terms of the seven sisters, this 23 to 24 degrees of Taurus. Squaring Saturn, I mean, come on, guys. I mean, we may feel like, okay, I'm ready to chop some heads, right? I'm ready to take, full command in my words, in my speech, in my mind. And Saturn is just like, nah, dude, like, we've done this before, okay? It's not that we can't be in command of ourselves. This is where the Pleiadian nature, the Pleiadians and the Pleiadian starseeds need to deal with what has gone wrong in their participation. And Saturn in Aquarius is just like, we've done this before. We've done it before. So how are you going to do it different? And it starts in your own inner dialogue, what you're thinking, what's going on in your mind. So while that's happening, and then the moon in Aquarius as well, squaring Uranus pretty much at the same time. Saturday night into Sunday morning, wow. I think maybe this will be our sobering leap, perhaps, or certainly a challenge that will force us to either make a quantum leap or not. That seems to be stacked up for us. And the moon will then come into a T-square with her own nodal axis not that long. Later, certainly much later in the day. So there's kind of a lull here in terms of what's going on between the very early morning hours of Sunday into Sunday afternoon into the early evening, possibly. Ooh, yeah, let's look at that, because like I said, the moon in Aquarius is going to square her own nodal axis while she is in conjunction to Saturn. So, and Mercury's still pretty much right here. And that means the moon is going to square Mercury right after that in the same, pretty much right after it came into a square with Saturn. So talk about having to just, find that space within us to, pull it all together and not get consumed by the emotion necessarily with the moon in Aquarius, because we really have to find that discipline and a sense of our own internalized discipline as we are also on a soul journey, accepting and aligning with the natural qualities and the Pleiadian nature. Man, it's not been an easy journey. And like I've talked about many, many times, there has been a concerted effort to brand the Pleiadians of their primary empathic but feminine qualities, and to completely cut off all of the masculine. Now, part of that is their own doing, because they're like, last time there was a war because we stepped forward. This time it's got to be different, and it is going to be different. And part of that is the North Node pulling us in that direction at a soul level. But is again going to be the challenge to what's happening now, why we're back here to do this again, or the overlay of these timelines or these experiences at a much larger, like, galactic history. Certainly much larger planetary history than we know of. But again, having, to really align ourselves in our own consciousness and our own mind with the natural unfoldment and the inherent value of the planet, of nature, of all of the elements of nature, of the natural forces in this universe and what that means. And that we do have to find a sense of command. It's just going to be, there's going to be a wall here with Saturn that's like, right? We've already done this. Like, you're not going to go take scalps this time, but that doesn't mean that you should just roll over either. We're going to have to all deal with these themes throughout the weekend. So the weekend really does end, as far as I can tell, with the moon square to Mercury in particular. That is, again, here's the transmutation of our emotional energies, challenged by a consciousness that's like, I just want to be here for all of it, right? I just want to give my mind over to this process, right? And to be very mentally aligned with the cultivation of all of these energies. And that's important. But again, the moon's pulling us back into this kind of nagging feeling of like, well, what is your higher consciousness? What are you doing about these things, right? How are you utilizing this energy in a conscious way at this next harmonic? And how are you going to transmute these emotional energies? We will be able to answer these questions for ourselves, I would say, by the end of the weekend. So the reverberations, the turmoil, the consistent upheaval, soul purification, all of these things that are happening it's so stabilizing to have all of this Taurus energy in a lot of ways, but we can't forget why we want to be stabilized in these energies in order to come back around and to make different decisions and change the bandwidth of the collective consciousness as a whole, right? And again, it just goes back to being in alignment with the planet. So the Schumann continues to support this process, right? The practices of, connecting to your earth star chakra, connecting to your root chakra. There are lots of different minerals and crystals which that support this process, energy work modalities that also guided meditations and visualization, right? Learning what it feels like in your actual body to have energy move and what it feels like to be connected, disconnected. All of those things are things you practice, right? And you learn what your own energetic language and intuitive language truly is for you, because there are things that are similar because we're all humans, but, well, for the most part. Some of us aren't. Some of us are not human. Some of us that are still here are maybe have a meat suit, but they have a soul that is not human, or not even a soul, right? The cloning thing. We'll talk about that later, right? I don't want to get too into it. We've gone plenty of time here on this report. But it's the transmutation of our own emotional energies that is going to be a challenge, right? And we also don't want to completely take ourselves out of the alignment with the collective material energies of Taurus through Aquarius, right? The other side of that is to just get tapped into the hive mind. Or to not have any personality or any individual voice whatsoever. But the Sun in Taurus, I think, and Mercury here is really going to, is really pulling us now, our current time now, individual personalities into alignment with what is around us, so that we can, much more consciously and responsibly use this energy in a upgraded type of way, and to align ourselves with the higher harmonic of where we are going. Because it's all still converging. We're still getting there. There's no two ways about it now. It's just a matter of our experience along the way, our experience of other people, and everybody's got their own soul contract and journey. And that's been some of the most difficult things for us to really come to terms with, in terms of people we care about, our family, what we think they're going to experience because they've done X, Y, or Z. We don't know, right? That's their journey. All of our job here is to be awake, aware, open heart, compassionate, and to really do what needs to be done for ourselves in order to successfully manage this transition into the new age, right? And for all of the infiltration of it, and everything that's surrounding this process, we are moving into a new phase. Like, there's just no, the cosmic cycles as a whole are well, maybe they're lying to us about that, in which case none of this matters anymore, and I don't even know what to say at that point. So I've been led down the path to this point so far. So it's all a farce, and in which case that's a pretty bleak future. Or there are things at play here that are beyond what has been attempted to control for. So anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there for today, my friends. I have gone on long enough. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to check in with the chat here real quick and see what else is going on for people. Yay, Light on Change says I made it live. Yeah. Important to use our spiritual energy to grow and help others as we ascend. And Mucho, not Michelle. That's funny. Working on getting my state national status, taking back my freedom now. That totally fits with the image of the Indian woman. A few steps, but I'll be ready to stand up empowered to fight when I'm done. Yes. That was part of the Indian, the indigenous women were a big part of, I had a very powerful shamanic experience in February of 2020 where I did a cacao ceremony in Washington on this land that had a copper pyramid, and the shamanic journey. Afterwards, I had a very powerful experience, but the women in the dream that I had afterwards, the women were all indigenous women. They were all like outside cooking and stuff, and that's what they were like. Hey, I was like, what can I do? And they're like, white girl, if you want to help, just put the pieces of the puzzle together. And there was a whole other thing, but it's really the divine feminine and the women, and in some ways the feminine side of things with the Pleiadian nature really needs to also come forward. And one of the things that we've talked about before, I think really on the fellowship meeting, actually, somebody had brought up how, the warrior nature for the feminine is a much different thing. It feels different. It has a completely different focus and goal in mind, and I think that's really what we're tapping into right now. And I feel like the Pleiadian nature, especially with the indigenous people of the North and South America, they have this strong connection to the Pleiades and to Lemuria as a whole. And so I feel like they in turn have realized where, certain things have gone astray in the way they've backed off certain things. And now it's time to come back in and, how do I say this? The masculine and how it's been distorted, like that needs to be purified by fire, right? And the fight is to protect, not just to win. There you go. That's pretty much it right there. Yep. That's exactly what it is. It's a protective mechanism. That's interesting that the Chariot in the tarot is the Cancer card, and Cancer is the womb. It is the sense of motherhood, but it's also a sense of protection and guardianship. And these are the Syrian starseeds, especially, the Syrian starseeds. So not all of the Syrians were good, and some of them have also been, a thorn in our side for a while, especially when it comes to technology and Atlantis. So, but that's for another time, my friends. I'm going to leave it here for this Friday stream. So I hope everyone is doing well. Take very good care of yourselves. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. If you're interested in reading energy work to support your process, I can accommodate a number of different things. If you don't see what you anything that speaks to you on my services page on my website, just get a hold of me. I do a lot of custom work for people too, and we can work something out that fits your budget if that's an issue, because my goal here is to be this facilitating presence and to catalyze as many reactions to, grow this fractal that we call life, and the fractal of the awakened human experience where we're headed towards. So that's all in the description box below. You can get everything you need down there. So I'm just going to leave it here for today, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves. I'm truly, do what you need to do to, support that process of detox and purification for yourself, and support your natural propensity for that. So by any means that makes sense to you. So take care of each other as much as you can. Realize that we are here to support and take care of each other, but we can't do the work for each other, and we can't presume that we know people's karmic contracts, even if we know their astrology charts, because we all have free choice in this process. So, and I love you guys. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you on Monday for the Starseed Ministry. Take care of yourselves. Bye.